what time it is, Knock Nation. Happy Monday. Welcome to another great day. It is a great day to choose joy, a great day to have a conversation with my new friend, Natalie Brunell. How are we?
Hi, nice to see you. I'm so excited to share this Monday morning with you.
It is really exciting for me to have you on. There are so many different segments and so many different aspects to crypto in general, Web3, of course. And you're in a space and a place that I certainly am not. I come from the meme coin, community coin, DeFi space. And so I cannot wait to get into it with you. Thank you for making the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Happy to. Okay, before we get into crypto, we have to know how in the world did you get into Web3 and crypto, and what were you doing before all of this?
Oh yeah, so I don't have a tech background. I don't have a finance or an investing background. I was actually a journalist for more than 10 years. I was a television reporter at local and national networks, and very grateful for that career path because I've always been a very curious person and I love to learn. And so, what better way than getting to interview people and cover a range of different subjects all over the country? I was a reporter last in Los Angeles doing investigative news, but actually, it was in 2017 when I was covering the California State Capitol when I heard about Bitcoin. I had a group of friends who were working in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and they were talking about Bitcoin, crypto, their Coinbase accounts. And I go, what is Bitcoin? I wish I could go back in time and just kind of kick myself and just tell myself, study this, study this. You just heard about something amazing. But like so many people, I really dismissed it. I thought, oh, this is probably like a stock. Oh, it's digital, so it could get hacked. And, I never really thought about money. Who creates my money? What is money? What's the history of money? So it wasn't until about 2 years after I first heard about Bitcoin that I read a book called The Bitcoin Standard, which is on my shelf. And that really changed my life. It changed my path. I became so curious. I went down the rabbit hole, eventually started a podcast, and slowly but surely navigated into this industry that I'm so grateful to be a part of, because now I just want to teach everybody about Bitcoin and to think about, what is money, how does it work, and why does our current system work the way that it does.
When you first got into crypto, that first year, what was it, 2019, I imagine?
Yeah, well, I started buying in 2017 when I first heard about it, but I didn't
Wow.
really understand it until a couple years later. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, you made a great move. Okay. So when you started really getting into crypto and really understanding crypto in general, were you ever involved in the community side of things on social media, or were you just a passive sideline investor?
So that was one of the reasons why I started my podcast, is because to learn about Bitcoin, I started engaging in Bitcoin Twitter, and I learned about all of these, big names and thought leaders, and they were all from different backgrounds, which I found to be fascinating. There was everyone from the CEO of a publicly listed company, Michael Saylor, to people who used to be in the military, to authors, to philosophers, and I just thought, how do people from such different backgrounds all come to the same conclusion that Bitcoin solves a lot of the problems in our current system? And so I was actually doing a podcast as a hobby. It was called Career Stories, where I would interview people within my industry and in media and social media about their career paths, how they found success, and just the obstacles they overcame. Because I've always loved just biographies and autobiographies and rags to riches stories and how people overcame, difficult situations to achieve success. And I had a mentor of mine who said, you're paying attention to, all these Bitcoin folks. Why don't you ask them these questions? Why don't you start asking the Bitcoiners? And so I did, and I did not expect it to become my career. I just thought, oh, well, do a couple episodes. This is my passion project on the side as a journalist. And what I learned was amazing. Not only did I learn more about Bitcoin, but I learned why so many fascinating, smart people have such conviction for this technology and what their backgrounds are and how they achieved success. So that's the sort of the genesis of Coin Stories.
Let's talk about content creation. So there are two adjacent industries in Web3 from what I can gather. There's obviously what I call the portfolio of crypto, the investing side, and most people know about that. The part that very few people understand and really take advantage of is the content creation, what I call the business of crypto. Can you talk about your content creation journey? Because you were okay, so you were what I call a part of big media,
Yeah.
mainstream media. Um, and now you're doing your own thing, you're a content creator, you're an influencer. Can you talk about that journey, what that was like, and did you ever see yourself doing this?
I did not. No. So if you would have told me a couple years ago that I would be, sort of running my own business that creates content and a podcast about Bitcoin, I would say, how would that even be possible? And really, it's gradually and then suddenly, if you will, right? I mean, I had this idea in my head. I started to gather the interviews, and then I went to the Bitcoin conference in 2021. And that's where I sort of announced my podcast. I made this little business card with a QR code that linked to my show. And I just started to hand it out to people. I wanted to meet people that were like minded and interested also in this space. And slowly but surely, the numbers started to go up. And then I was asked to be on shows and to be interviewed, which was really fun because now I got to use my background and my skill set of communication and storytelling, but in a different capacity and sort of answering questions and helping people understand this space. So, all of a sudden it was just opportunities opened up. And I've always been a big believer in that quote that says, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? So I had been really preparing and studying. And then the opportunity was there aren't a lot of, television personalities or news people that know and understand this space. So, when people say I'm lucky, it's not really lucky. It's just, it just worked out this way in terms of the landscape that exists, and very, very grateful. So now I do my podcast. I do another show called Hard Money, and I'm really actually dedicating this year to try to create some content that's really based on first principles and getting people in who are on the sidelines, very skeptical, especially after the crypto meltdown and all the price declines, and just want to better understand this space as well as just what money is. So that's sort of the project that I'm working on for 2023.
I'm excited to hear that. We're going to get into some stuff that you're really excited about. Whenever someone is getting into our space and you're talking to them and they really don't know what to do, what do you say? Because there are very few people at this point who've never heard the word Bitcoin or crypto.
Mhm.
But there are a ton of people who've never done the homework, never looked into white papers, never studied anything, and are paralyzed by fear. So, what are next steps that people can take?
I mean, I think that the easiest way to dip your toes in is actually starting to better understand the current and more traditional system that we're all in. So, I ask people not only how they invest, but do they save? Do they save in cash? Because if you save in the bank right now, not only are you getting point whatever percent interest rate, but that money is losing value because of inflation. And I have learned so much in this space about economics and the fact that we've been told, or we've sort of accepted this idea that things just get more expensive around us, right? The cost of education, tuition goes up every single year, houses become more expensive. But your job, your wages aren't necessarily keeping up with that, especially for young people, who graduate with maybe a lot of student loan debt. They can't just walk into the economy and be able to purchase a house or have, start their nice stock portfolio. It's growing increasingly difficult. And it wasn't like that a couple generations ago. Before just, 1960s, 70s, you could have a one income household, you could afford a nice house, and you could pay it off relatively easily. Today, you need multiple incomes and you have a big mortgage that takes you 2, 3, 4 times as long to pay off. And so once you start to question, why is it like this? Where does our money come from? And you start to peel back the layers of how our dollar used to be backed by gold. And then in 1971, there was a very big change. And now essentially there's no cost to creating money. And the people who create the money are bureaucrats, many of whom are unelected. And they sort of, the people that are closest to them benefit. And there's this Cantillon effect where the rich get richer and the poor and the working class are working harder and harder for less. And so once you start to teach people about that, I think it's really eye-opening because I had that moment, especially when I read the Bitcoin Standard, where I go, "Oh my gosh, it's like I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it, and I didn't understand until someone really explained the monetary system." And then really it's like, well, what are the solutions, right? What's out there that's a proposed solution? And you find that there aren't many. It would be really difficult for us to go back on the gold standard. Gold is mainly
Hmm.
centralized with central banks. It's very difficult to move. It's not portable. It's difficult to audit. And so Bitcoin through technology solves all these problems. And we have generations coming up who only know they're natively online, right? They do everything online. And so you kind of start to imagine that the future, which is a digital economy, a global digital economy, will move on these fast payment rails. And we have one that is completely decentralized, completely finite, immutable, verifiable. And you
Hmm.
start to say, wow, I think this might be the solution. And so, it's about sort of those breadcrumbs. And then people end up getting curious enough that they want to learn more, but they also want to buy a little bit.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's long term thinking. There are way too many people trying to get rich
For
quick in this
sure.
space. And I just think it's so critical to understand not only the technology, but the value and the use case globally. So let's talk about content creation as well. There are people listening and watching who maybe have been in crypto, have invested in crypto, maybe they're on the sideline, whatever. But they've thought to themselves, if Hanok can create a TikTok account, if Natalie can have a ever growing Twitter account and platform and podcast, what about me? So, what would you say to all the content creators who have been mulling it over, thinking it over for a long time, but are scared, maybe don't know what to do? They're just sitting on their hands.
Yeah, I mean, I would say take action, right? A lot of this is learn by trial, and there's a great need for voices in this space to help break down these topics and help onboard people and make it approachable. And everyone, has their own unique skill set and unique personality that's going to draw in a certain audience. And we all want to see people that look like us, that sound like us, that we relate to as far as their backgrounds. And so we need, a really diverse group of people that are telling the story. Money is a story, the economy is a story. We're all storytellers. And so, I think that if you have an idea, try it. There's really, you know, you'll regret the things you don't do more than the things that you do. You'll learn a lesson. Maybe it'll resonate. Maybe it'll turn into something. You really never know, but you won't know unless you try. And so I really urge people, if they have an idea, try to make it happen. And don't use, your schedule as an excuse, because I had a full-time job, and I started doing my podcast at, 6 o'clock in the morning and after work at night. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes hustle. But those moments I look back on and I'm like, I would go back, to those times where I was tired, but I was so motivated and excited because you're working on something that you really care about. And when your heart is really in it, time goes away. You totally lose the concept of time. And I think that that is true joy. That is true fulfillment, motivation. And that's where the greatest ideas come from, taking risk, entrepreneurship, innovation. So I really urge people, if they have an idea, go out there and do it, because the tools have never been more accessible, and it's never been easier to connect with an entire world thanks to the internet.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for that encouragement. Let's talk about, just really the final question. What are you excited about? Maybe on the content creation side and certainly the crypto side. My audience knows, Knock Nation knows. I am excited about Apollo Crypto DAO, what they're building and where they're headed. But we need to know, what about you, Natalie? What are you excited about in this space? What are you excited about as a creator in 2023?
I'm excited about teaching Bitcoin 101 to all the millions and millions and billions of people out there that don't understand it, that don't know how easy it is to understand. And that's what I'm focused on. So I think there are a lot of amazing builders in the space, and there are so many projects that, are potentially transformative in our lives. But I'm going to choose to focus on just teaching people what the heck money is, and to take power back as an individual, to take power back from these governments that are so corrupt. We've seen it. It doesn't matter what political party you are. When people have too much power and control, they tend to allow it to corrupt them. And I believe that the people should have the power. We should decide. And we should have access to opportunity, and to be able to build and create, communities that are based on value. And so that's what I think Bitcoin will help us with. And I hope to help that movement.
I think you are. I think you have, and I think you will continue to do so. So thank you for being a leading voice in this space. Where can people follow you? Where are you? What platforms? List all of them and your ads.
Well, thank you so, so much. And thank you for what you're doing in the space. I'm active on Twitter at Nat Brunell. My podcast is called Coin Stories. It's on every streaming platform and YouTube. I also do a show called Hard Money. And you can visit me on my website, talkingbitcoin.com.
I hope all of you, Knock Nation, do so. You need to be diversified. You need to hear from all kinds of peoples in this ever growing space. Natalie, thank you for hanging out with us. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.